All right, man. Torture Talk After Hours. So look, man. Today we're gonna be talking about SEXYY RED, man. Whatever happened? Did she fail? Yeah, man. It's a lot going on. So I don't know, man. Let's see what happens. All right, man. So I want to talk about the fall of whole rap, let's just say. You know what I'm saying? Ratchet rap.
12
That's what I'm
p.m.
gonna call it. I'm gonna call it ratchet rap. The fall of ratchet rap. And this is what happened. So let's get into it, man. Let's go.
Popular new female rappers in the entire industry after receiving a Now, SEXYY RED just over a year ago was one of the most popular new female rappers in the entire industry. After receiving a massive marketing push, it really looked like she was unstoppable. But now, it seems like the SEXYY RED experiment might have failed. Or has it? Let's talk about it. SEXYY RED is a 27-year-old rapper from St. Louis, Missouri, who broke into the mainstream back in late 2023 after her song Pound Town went viral. After the success of that record, she later secured a remix with Nicki Minaj, and that same year, Drake featured her on his album. From there, it looked like nothing could stop SEXYY RED. Her music.
I'm just gonna say this. A lot of these rappers are so fake. They so fake. And I'm not even talking about SEXYY RED. I'm just talking in general. Rappers are so fake. They so fake. It's like they see somebody with a wave or something and they instantly want to jump on the wave. And they instantly act like they friends and hugging up with them. They so fake. It's so corny. It's so corny to see. You know what I'm saying? But the rise of SEXYY RED really opened my eyes to a lot of different things, especially about females who accept this type of behavior on a global scale. Let's just say, not even a global scale, on an international scale, not really global. You know what I'm saying? Well, some people would consider it international, global. Let's just say a domestic scale, domestically. You know what I'm saying? And a lot of us really sat here and we embraced this type of behavior from certain people. Now, let's be clear here. This is, and SEXYY RED by any means is not a representation of what black women are. She's a representation of what hood rats and those type of women do. That's just my opinion. Y'all can argue with me about it. I don't care. I don't look at black women as a whole as SEXYY RED. Of course she's a black woman and I respect that, but I don't look at her behaviors as the behaviors of black women. I just don't. You know what I'm saying? I think that I know a lot of black women who don't act nothing like SEXYY RED. In fact, I know more black women who don't act nothing like SEXYY RED. I think this is an old ideology that I think a lot of people are trying to push into the mainstream to make it seem like this is something that all black women do, but it's not.
Everywhere. She was trending nonstop. She became the new face of a certain kind of female rap energy, raw, unapologetic, and in your face. However, during her rise, we saw a lot of what I would call dysfunctional behavior. Something I actually dove into in my 30-minute documentary last year, The Dysfunction of SEXYY RED. Among many things, we had situations like the teacher incident. Back in November 2023, a young ballet teacher went viral after expressing frustration about her students singing along to one of SEXYY RED's most explicit songs, which was, of course, Pound Town.
Your 5-year-old daughters are asking to listen to Pound Town. Your 5-year-old daughters are asking, can we hear Pound Town?
A normal reaction, especially coming from...
And that's what I'm saying. That's exactly what I'm saying. I talked about this a long time ago, too, about how the narrative is being pushed with ghetto ratchetness as if it's normalized. It's never going to be normalized. It's not. Ratchetness will never be normalized. That's why it's called ratchetness. It will never be normalized. But a lot of people want to push for that because they think if you speak on it, then you are somehow demeaning or degrading women. You're not. Because all black women are not like SEXYY RED. I'm sorry to tell y'all, for all of those in the back who thought they were, they're not. Sorry.
A woman who works with children every single day and understands what it's like growing up as a young girl herself. Now, She was simply pointing out the negative influence that songs like that could have on young kids. But instead of reflecting on something which was pretty fair criticism, SEXYY RED brushed it off, replying, "Girl, shut the hell up and play my song." And that moment right there said a lot, because the dysfunction wasn't in just what she said. It was in her complete inability to recognize her music, while profitable, is also inappropriate for the children who idolize her. And then when that teacher spoke...
See what I mean? Now, this woman is speaking as a black woman. She's nothing like SEXYY RED. But this is the point that I'm making. Maybe it's good that we're getting away from this type of behavior. I'm seeing more and more people starting to become more educated on a various of things. Whether we agreed or whether we disagree on whatever views we have, we're starting to be more educated on certain things. And I think ratchetness, to me, and I don't care what nobody says, it's never welcome. Never. On either side, it's never welcome. Some people could try to pretend, but it's not. It's never welcome.
Up, she was ridiculed, while SEXYY RED kept on climbing. Then there was the school visit. Just a few weeks after, SEXYY RED made headlines again, and that time it was after reportedly getting kicked out of a school in her hometown of St. Louis for smelling like marijuana. She later reacted in a very angry way after the school actually turned her away and essentially told her, "Hey, you can't be here because you smell like Mary J." And SEXYY RED was saying that she just wanted to speak to the kids.
So this school put me, I came up here, got you, try to talk to the kids, get them the word of the day, they gonna put me on me. Tell me I smell like weed, watch this. My job hard. Every day I'm fighting for my life, every day. Try to put me out from this school, I'm coming back around.
And the question a lot of people had was, wait a second, why are you showing up to a school smelling like weed, regardless of if you were invited or not? And that kind of thing definitely made it clear that SEXYY RED was very detached from basic accountability. Instead of leaving...
He's absolutely right about this. I think that certain people got to a certain point in their life too quickly. I think some of us we need to learn the steps of getting certain things out of us. Whether it's ghetto-ness, ratchetness, you have to understand. Everybody is not going to be accepting of your behavior. Even the people that say that it's okay you act like that, they will never be around you. They're never going to be accepting of this type of behavior. But most people, what happen is they don't know how to actually grow up out of this behavior. Because this is just something that you do when if you're 45 years old, 50 years old, and you're still acting ignorant, belligerent, you're still doing the same things you were doing when you were a teenager, you never grew up out of that behavior. Never. And this is what this is. She is the product of a person who is stuck in their adolescent stage as a grown woman. Like just things like that shouldn't be publicized online. She's doing, and it's crazy.
Actually decided to turn up outside the school with a crowd of students.
St. Louis native known for her raunchy lyrics, making national headlines over a recent performance outside of a rally that was for kids. Well, national recording artist SEXYY RED, whose name is Janae Wary, drawing criticism tonight over her behavior and performance after a student rally Wednesday at Chaffetz.
The ironic thing, her name is Jeanette Wary. Be worried about Jeanette. Bro, that is crazy.
The organization involved telling First Alert 4 tonight she was never even invited.
Despite being told not to be on the property. Obviously, that's the kind of thing any regular person would have faced real consequences for, but when you're famous, rich, and poppin', consequences don't always apply. Now, this pattern actually continued because after this came the 4C hair comments. Now, in a clip posted to Instagram, SEXYY RED actually showed off her straightened hair, and she mocked women with 4C hair. For anyone who doesn't know what 4C hair is, it's essentially the natural hair type that most black women have. And SEXYY RED, she posted this photo of herself and said, "You carpet hair beanie neck hoes could never." And then she obviously got backlash for this.
And I just hate the fact that we make fun of things that we cannot change. We cannot change hair texture. And it's sad because this is who's in the mainstream media talking like this. And a lot of people are growing up having her as a role model for whatever reason. And they're going to start saying carpet hair. It's already a search in TikTok is carpet hair. The hair texture that you have does not determine how beautiful you are. What your face looks like really doesn't determine how beautiful you are. It's your aura, it's your personality that determines how beautiful you are.
And then when that backlash came,
I don't know about that. No, I'm playing. No, I'm gonna tell y'all ladies something. This episode is for the women. I'm gonna tell y'all something. Now I'm gonna try to be. I want to be as clear as I can. Men like natural women. We like natural things. If you are wearing wigs, weaves, all types of different makeup, all types of different things, attachments, enhancements, all of these different BBLs, all this stuff. Let me explain something to y'all women. Men like natural women. If you're naturally beautiful, the first thing men say is, she look good without no makeup. Because we don't really, it's okay to us and we accept it, but it's not a deal breaker for us. So if you're running around with 23, 24 inch hair, long wigs and weaves and all of this stuff, it don't move us. Like, it's okay. And I know a lot of women are out here saying, which I believe is 100% cap. I know a lot of y'all out here saying, well, the thing is, we do it for ourselves. It's like, and then I ask you, well, are you vain? And you say, no, I'm not. Yeah. If you're doing something for yourself to look good for yourself, that's the clear definition of being vain. And most women don't want to admit that y'all do it for attention. Let's be clear. Like, I'm not going to cap with y'all. Y'all do it for attention. But when SEXYY RED made comments like that, I can understand why it would hurt people. I can understand. But a lot of y'all just let it pass. Y'all don't care.
she responded in a very distasteful way, and she said, I fuck with carpet hair, but would still call women that if they talked smack. Obviously not the smartest move, because, you know, the majority of her fan base is actually made up of the same black women that she was shading. And also, it's like, you're a black woman yourself and you have this hair type yourself naturally, and just because you strain that hair that one time, that doesn't really take away from the fact that you naturally have that hair type. You get what I'm saying? So that's the kind of thing that kind of comes across as, like, you know what they call it, internalized hatred. And this is what made it very ironic, because SEXYY RED's entire brand was always built on exaggerating the same negative stereotypes of black women that she herself insulted. But then we also have the viral tape. And in October 2023, SEXYY RED accidentally posted a private tape on her Instagram story. I'm sure you probably know what that private tape was, right?
Now, people said that you leaked your sex tape on purpose.
Mm-hmm. It was on Instagram, like a little short clip video, and then through the phone, and it got accidentally pressed like that.
She later claimed on an interview with The Breakfast Club that it wasn't intentional, but anyone with a functioning brain can tell that it was. The timing, the context, the way it boosted her visibility all point to this being part of the marketing strategy. Because remember, her biggest...
Yeah, I don't understand why some of these different celebrities do stuff like this, leaking tapes of themselves. If they don't, I think people live in the moment too much. Nobody actually is living for tomorrow. They don't understand that these things will come back to haunt you or your children. And when I say haunt you, I don't necessarily mean you. I mean your family. This one girl said to me, she said she don't want her family to know that she has an OF, right? I said, well, it's not like they can't find out. She said, nah, they ain't gonna ever find out. It's online. If they have access to online, they'll find out. Somebody's gonna tell them. I said, when you are out here, you might as well just tell them, like, look, I have an OF account. Because this way, at least they'll know. I ain't doing that. That's crazy. Okay. And I'm almost guaranteeing somebody's going to find out from her family because they nosy like that.
Song Pound Town literally revolves around her body and sexuality, okay? So when the world suddenly gets visual evidence connected to those lyrics, what do you think happens? A viral storm. And this kind of thing is part of building a brand identity in today's industry. Not just for Red, but for any artist trying to connect their image to a specific idea or aesthetic. It's very profitable and it works. In this case, we have Shock scandal and controversy being the core of that identity. And in this situation, none of it was an accident. It was all strategy. This is how an artist gets branded, sold, and introduced to the public by the record labels. And like a lot of us know, the more extreme the image is, the more attention it draws. And the more attention it draws, the more money it makes for the people behind the scenes.
That's a fact. That's a fact. And I think that that's what happened. I think that it used to be, this whole thing has flipped. It used to be stop using women as exploitive tools to make money. Now it's please use women as exploitive tools to make money. If it's kind of like if I was to sit here and say, I don't like the fact that they're exploiting women, people will get mad at me and say, who are you to stop this? You should let this happen. It's like before, it wasn't like this. You know what I'm saying? Everybody's talking about being progressive, but it seems like everybody's degressive. Like nobody's actually moving on. I'm looking at SEXYY RED and I'm saying to myself, like, if you have children and you are out here, they got you out here doing things that you're going to regret when you get older. This is not something you did in the club and it's 10 people. No, this is in front of the world. Everybody's seeing this. It's hard to convert back to something and really say, well, I'm a changed person. That was my past. It's hard to convert back to that. It really is.
Here's the most worrying part about all of this. A huge portion of her audience is made up of children, specifically young black girls who look up to her, imitate her, and see her as a representation of what confidence looks like. And so when those same girls watch a public figure leak her own tape and then pretend it was an accident, it sends a dangerous message that attention is worth more than dignity. When it comes to being a public figure, no matter how you look at it, there is a level of responsibility that comes with that. With great power comes great responsibility. And it's not about being perfect 24/7 or operating like a role model every second of the day, but at least being conscious of how your actions land and who they actually speak to is very important. Now, in SEXYY RED's case, I never expected that kind of responsibility from her, at least based on how she moved up until that point. But that's exactly the point here. The industry knew that. They knew she wasn't going to filter herself or self-correct or think about the impact that her negative actions are having on people, the world, and the youth. And in a way, that's what made her the perfect.
That's a fact. That's a fact. That's a fact. I think that they knew what they was getting themselves into. She was the perfect storm for chaos and for people to, get out here and look at her and say, look at this. Look at this is what black women are. Look at this. And I'm gonna be honest with y'all. Although I disagree with a lot of stuff that certain people say, I think we need to champion them much more than we champion her. I'll be honest with y'all. It's certain people, certain people I totally disagree with on their behaviors, not their what they stand for, but just how they get to the point. I don't like that. I would rather deal with them than deal with somebody like SEXYY RED. I'm not even gonna lie.
A candidate for this experiment, because before SEXYY RED was handpicked, and listen to what I just said here, okay? Handpicked to be elevated to the spotlight, there's a very real process that happens behind the scenes. Personalities of this type don't just blow up by accident. Their image, their behavior, all of it is observed, analyzed, and measured by the people who decide who gets pushed and who doesn't. And this explains something a lot of people have wondered about for years, which is, why do so many public figures suddenly explode in popularity, yet seem to completely lack a moral compass? Why do the most chaotic, reckless, or controversial artists get the biggest push? That's not by accident. How it works is this. Labels, investors, and media companies collectively look for what's profitable, not what's healthy, uplifting, or balanced. They look for personalities that can generate attention, even if that attention comes from dysfunction, because attention is currency. And someone who doesn't self-reflect or set boundaries is easier to brand, easier to manipulate, and easier to push into extreme directions. And during that evaluation process, a lot of questions get asked behind the scenes. Questions like, who can push the public's buttons the most? Who can trigger the strongest reactions? Who will go the furthest without questioning the impact? That's why I felt like SEXYY RED was being extra provocative during her blow-up period. It wasn't random. It wasn't accidental. It was very planned. It was orchestrated in a way that maximized shock, maximized virality, and maximized profit. And despite all that,
you have to understand, they've been doing this to us for a long time. And not just us, they've been doing this to every artist. It's what demographic you feel, what you can provide, and how much they can make of. If they know that most people are, from her demo, are into this type of behavior, they're going to exploit that. That's just the natural order of things. A lot of y'all think that these companies and even some of these artists are not are virtuous. No, they're not. Money is the root of all evil. I want y'all to understand that. It's the root of all evil. Now, you do have some people who are pretty good with money. They're good. They're not evil, I would say. But when you get a lot of it and you think that you don't need no more of it, you're going to get out here and say and do things that most people will probably be upset about. And the crazy thing is, all of y'all that's watching, 90% of y'all, or let's say 99% of y'all, probably would do the same thing if you got into that position as well. It's just the bottom line. It's very difficult to be powerful and be how would I say this? It's very difficult to be powerful and to be compassionate. It's very difficult because you're how you consider compassion may be different now that you're powerful versus someone who is not powerful and consider compassion. You know what I'm saying? So you got to understand, it's just a natural order of things sometimes.
Function, it seemed like she just kept going up. Every controversy, every viral moment, instead of things slowing down, it almost felt like it was fueling her career even more. And my theory has always been that there's of course a reason for that. See, I personally think that SEXYY RED was getting this push for one main reason: to promote a very specific image, a very negative one, because in a world where media has always shaped how we view people, especially black people, SEXYY RED became a tool for the music industry to push a modern version of one of the oldest and most damaging stereotypes about black women. I'm talking about the Jezebel stereotype. Dating back to slavery, this stereotype painted black women as hypersexual, uncontrollable, and defined entirely by their bodies. It was a complete lie that was used to justify the exploitation and abuse of black women for generations, and somehow that same imagery is still being recycled today, just packaged with beats and marketing. And hip-hop has always been an art form too.
That's a fact. That's a fact. That's a fact. What he's saying is a fact. I said this earlier. This is the type of behavior they want to exploit because they believe that all black women are like this, or they can capture a certain demographic of black women who are like this, or get them early. Because if you catch them when they're young, then they will think that, okay, well, I can do the same thing SEXYY RED do and I'll still be famous. It's crazy.
To empower black voices. However, it has unfortunately been hijacked to do the opposite. And SEXYY RED, whether she realizes or not, became the face of that. Her entire brand, her lyrics, her visuals, and even the way she's promoted. It all fed into that same narrative, that the only way a black woman can be seen, celebrated, or go viral is by being sexualized, loud, and reckless. And Red eventually became very successful. She's undoubtedly generated a whole lot of money for the music industry. And for a while, the experiment worked. But now things are starting to shift. A lot of you guys might have noticed how SEXYY RED isn't being talked about nearly as much as before. And there's a few reasons for that. Now let's take it back. Take it way back to how it all started. Before SEXYY RED took off, she was discovered by a Miami-based label and management company called Rebel Music back in 2021. They came across some of her early songs and decided to sign her. Her A&R executive stated that, "Once she got off the plane and I heard her voice, I knew she was a star." Fast forward to mid-2023, the peak of her blow-up, and Gamma, a new media company, stepped in to handle her distribution. Now let's talk a little bit about Gamma, because this was the company behind her true rise. Now this company was founded by a Larry Jackson. Some of you guys in the music industry might know who this is. He actually spent 7 years as Apple Music's global creative director before leaving in 2022 to start Gamma, a company that claims to create, distribute, and market content focused on Black culture. And according to Larry Jackson himself, that focus on Black culture isn't just a slogan, it's the entire pitch. Because when Gamma was launched, it wasn't some small experimental startup. They actually came out the gate backed by $1 billion in financing. And the question is, where did they get that money from? We'll get to that in a second. And this money was apparently being put to work, particularly and acutely, on Black culture. So $1 billion dedicated specifically to Black culture. Interesting. Now, Larry Jackson is a very much recognized name in the music industry. Most people, whether it's managers, artists, or anyone else who actually works in the music industry, most times they know who he is, right? Billboard even named Larry Jackson the R&B and hip-hop executive of the year. They described him as someone who's able to bring things to life, with artists like Travis Scott praising the way he moves. So he's been getting a lot of cosigns from a lot of very prominent artists as well. And one of the first big moves the company Gamma that he started made was facilitating a deal where TikTok's 1 billion plus users got exclusive access to the entire Death Row catalog, which included Snoop Dogg's classic Doggy Style album and the late Tupac's All Eyes on Me as well. Now right here, Larry Jackson demonstrated exactly the kind of pull he and his company Gamma actually has and what it's apparently built to do. Use massive capital, massive access, and massive cultural leverage to shape what the general public, but especially Black audiences, consume and how they consume it. Now when you understand that, SEXYY RED's rise starts looking a lot less organic and a lot more like a calculated extension of that mission. Now alongside Larry Jackson, we also have Ike Yusuf, Gamma's president. Now Ike previously worked at Interscope Records as a CFO, Chief Financial Officer, and he holds degrees in business, economics, and accounting. So his background is strictly corporate, not creative. Together, these two essentially built Gamma to be a hybrid between a label and a media powerhouse. And SEXYY RED quickly became one of their biggest test cases, the face of a very calculated experiment that combined viral marketing, controversy, and cultural packaging under the banner of representation. But here's where things get interesting. The largest investor in Gamma isn't someone from the culture at all. It's Todd Boehly, a 52-year-old American businessman of German heritage who's worth over $8 billion. So now it actually starts to make sense where they got that initial billion from, right? So the main investor...
Yeah, this is crazy. I didn't know none of this. Be honest with y'all, I'm glad I watched this. I didn't know none of this, and this is what I'm here for. I'm here to learn.
Behind a company that claims to focus on Black culture is a white billionaire who also happens to co-own Los Angeles Dodgers and Chelsea Football Club. And, that's kind of where the dots start to connect. Because one of the biggest questions people had when SEXYY RED started popping up everywhere was how? Like, how is all this possible? How does someone with that kind of image suddenly get this massive push from every direction? Well, now it should make sense to you. When you realize that the machine behind SEXYY RED included a billionaire investor worth nearly $9 billion, a major media company with deep Apple Music ties, and a label infrastructure designed to amplify controversy, it starts painting a very clear picture. And this is something Candace Owens actually spoke about some time back as well.
Gamma has a lot of power. I'll tell you why Gamma has a lot of power. Because the two individuals that started Gamma, one of them came out of Apple. His name is Larry Jackson. And the second one of them came from Interscope Records. He has a ton of clout in the record community, the music community industry, so to speak. And his name is Ike Yusuf. Larry Jackson, who I mentioned before, is Black. And he is the person that I am more interested in.
For anyone who doesn't recognize the face or name, Candace Owens is an American political commentator and author, and a self-labeled conservative activist. Now, she's covered a lot of these same connections, pointing out how the entertainment industry profits off of promoting chaos, dysfunction, and over-sexualization, especially when it comes to Black artists.
Now, I want to speak on her real quick. A lot of y'all don't like Candace Owens. A lot of y'all hate what she says. A lot of y'all hate the fact that she did this and did that and said this and said that. A lot of y'all hate that. But I want y'all to understand, the way things are promoted is to get you to not like somebody and then don't ever listen to them. It's a lot of things that Candace Owens has said that I totally disagree with and I don't like. But there's a lot of things that Candace Owens has said that I agree with. And this one here, I remember seeing this episode where she broke down SEXYY RED and she broke down all of the female rappers who are exploiting themselves or being used for exploitation. I seen it. And people were mad at her about it. So I want y'all to understand, we always going to have a difference of opinion about certain things, but I could never be mad at her for speaking on why are we allowing this type of behavior to go on in our community. Like, I can't be mad at her for that.
Interestingly enough, this connects to something rapper Ice Cube talked about on Bill Maher's podcast. Ice Cube spoke about the same kind of manipulation, which is what he called social engineering, where record labels act like gatekeepers. And he said that they essentially don't tell artists exactly what to say, but they make sure that the most destructive messages are the ones that get pushed to the top.
The records that come out are really geared to push people towards that prison industry.
But they didn't make you write those lyrics.
It's not about making somebody write the lyrics. It's about being there as guardrails to make sure certain songs make it through and certain songs don't.
And this is an idea
Yeah, that's a fact. I think a lot of us do say that. But it's all a part of manipulation. It's all a part of money. So let's say if I said to you, you could rap about whatever you want to rap about, knowing that you are from that extreme, obviously you're going to rap about that and I'm going to be there to promote it. It's not like you're from that extreme and then all of a sudden you're going to start rapping about what's the name? Because then I'm going to say to you, well, maybe what you're rapping about, maybe this song ain't going to make you no money. And then you're going to say, well, maybe I should be more real about it. Then you do it. When you get pushed to that extreme, or not even pushed to it, when people are at an extreme, that's when they grab you and they put you out there. It's kind of like, I hate to say this, but it's kind of like blackface in a way where they put you in the front, not necessarily blackface, but they put you in the front of people and make you dance, you know what I'm saying, in front of people, knowing that you are from that extreme. Now, if you are in the middle or not from the extreme, they're not going to pick you up. They want you to embarrass yourself while they make money. And you look at it as like you're keeping it real. I'm being myself up here. And it's really, even if you are being yourself up there, that's not acceptable because most people look at that as destructive. You know what I'm saying? If you following me.
Explored conversationally over time. So it's nothing new, right? Now, Ice Cube was essentially saying, if you follow the money, you'll start noticing how the same people who own major record labels also have ownership stakes in private prisons. Now, that's another conversation I'll explore in depth in another video. Whether you believe what Ice Cube said or not, the underlying message underneath is very clear. The industry profits off of chaos, dysfunction, and division. And when you look at what gets the biggest push, the artists who glorify violence, crime, or hypersexuality, it starts to make a lot of sense, right? And this is how a lot of these experiments start. Now, for SEXYY RED, I think they decided to push the boundaries even further, especially when it comes to the raunchiness and shock value. Because here's the thing, we live in a time where, let's just say that people are extremely desensitized in all types of ways. Nothing surprises anyone anymore. So to grab everybody's attention, like to grab the attention of the public, you almost have to go to the extreme. You have to be louder, you have to be wilder, you have to be more provocative than the last person, or you'll get drowned out in the noise. And SEXYY RED became the perfect vessel for that strategy. Because one thing about the public is that we react to extremes. If you show us something that feels outrageous, controversial, or wild enough, it grabs our attention instantly. And in an experiment where attention equals profit, the industry keeps testing how far they can go. They take these sample sizes of artists, amplify the most polarizing ones, and study what happens next, how people react, how the internet responds, how the controversy spreads. If it goes viral, they double down on that formula. If it doesn't, they move on to the next artist. That's exactly what we've seen happen in this case right here. SEXYY RED was a test subject for how far they could stretch the public's tolerance for dysfunction, for explicitness, for chaos, all while disguising it as authenticity. Now, what's happening right now with SEXYY RED though, because she's obviously not getting the same marketing push that she was. Before we even get to SEXYY RED, we got to look at what's been happening in rap overall. Now, a few days ago, we talked about that Billboard report, the one showing that for the first time since the 90s, there wasn't a single rap song in the Hot 100's top 40. Rap's market share has been slipping for years. This is something a lot of people know, right? Labels aren't investing in hip-hop like they used to, and a lot of the newer sounds just aren't connecting with the public anymore. Meanwhile, country, Latin, Afrobeats, and pop are dominating. So the industry has shifted towards safe artists with guaranteed returns, meaning the machine has been, pulling back on rappers across the board, not just SEXYY RED. Now for SEXYY RED, she's undoubtedly an artist who's fueled by antics, and an artist in that category usually gets a huge marketing push during that initial discovery phase where the label throws everything at them to create momentum, and it works at first. It always does. But later on, things start to slow down because antics have an expiration date. That's just how it is. There's also a growing level of fatigue towards these characters who get pushed nonstop, not just in the music industry, but just in social media in general. And the reason...
That's a fact. That's a fact. People get to a certain point, even not even the artists, is people get tired of it. You have to, I'm gonna say switch it up, but you have to grow as an artist. I use 6ix9ine as an example. Look at 6ix9ine. 6ix9ine, he was all of this, even though people say he still is what he is. Today, I definitely see more growth in 6ix9ine than I ever did when he was younger. You know what I'm saying? And that's the thing about her. She hasn't grown. I seen her do a picture with Drake, and I said to myself, okay, she trying something different. But some of these artists, man, it is what it is with them.
For this fatigue, in my opinion, is because people today are way more conscious, way more self-aware, way more spiritually tuned in than they were in the past. Because here's the thing, I'm sure you know this, right? We're living in a time where there's so many things that are attacking our attention, our energy, and our peace. So people can feel when something is forced and when something is spiritually empty. SEXYY RED went through that period where she was being prioritized, where the machine was fully behind her, pushing her into every corner of the culture and industry, but things are a little different now. Just a year and some change later, that momentum isn't the same. The push isn't the same, and the public isn't reacting the same way they did before. And once the intensity of the reactions start to fade, what incentive does the industry have to keep pushing you and investing all this money into you? None. And there's also something to be said about the demographic that SEXYY RED was being marketed towards, which was primarily black women. And based on the responses I've seen online, a lot of, those same women who were initially hyped about her are starting to wake up to what's really going on. Not in a judgmental way, but in a self-awareness kind of way. Because once something reaches a certain level of exaggeration or dysfunction or straight up cartoonish behavior, people eventually recognize it for what it is. Now, personally, I think that all those black women should have realized, when she made those 4C hair comments, that's what we call internalized hatred, okay? And so
yeah, he's absolutely right. And I said this in the beginning of the episode. Black women don't represent, she doesn't represent what black women are. And I think this is the reason why she's where she's at. And she's basically fallen from grace right now.
I think that should have been the moment where they woke up and they realized, like, damn, she's straight up mocking herself and she's mocking us, right? Now, on top of that, we also know that SEXYY RED's rise was built almost entirely on hype. And when something is built on hype, it fades the moment people take a step back and actually look at what they're consuming. When you change the way you look at things, the things you're looking at actually start to change. And that's kind of when people start to see through the hype and the facade. And I think that's what happened with SEXYY RED. I also don't think that people are as quick to play this kind of music around their children anymore, especially after everything, people have seen from SEXYY RED, but also too, considering everything that's happening in the world right now. Because the truth is, there's a lot of forces operating through social media today, pushing certain ideas, certain behaviors, and planting certain messages in the minds of the youth. Not in some kind of like conspiracy way, but I'm saying in a very algorithm slash, attention type of way. The stuff that spreads the fastest is usually the stuff that's loudest, wildest, and most chaotic, and most dysfunctional. And when that becomes the dominant influence in certain spaces, parents and young people themselves start paying attention. And once you recognize the pattern, once you see the intention behind the marketing, you start realizing this isn't something you want influencing the next generation. And that shift right there matters. Because when the core audience becomes more intentional, more protective, and more aware, the entire foundation of that experiment starts to fall apart. Now look, I think SEXYY RED is going to continue being successful to some extent because she's got a fan base, she's got visibility, and she's built a name for herself. But at this point, it's obvious that the experiment isn't hitting the way it used to. But what the hell do I know? You tell me. Has the experiment failed or not? If you made it this far, drop a like on this video. Clearly.
All right, man. Yeah, he's absolutely right, man. He's absolutely right. That was a really good episode. Yeah, man. Thank y'all for joining me. I appreciate y'all. I'll see y'all on the next one. Torture Talk After Hours. Peace. Bye.